All right. Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Corey Stopka. I'm the Grand President, honored to serve you in that way. We're coming to you live tonight from our central office in Oxford, Ohio for our State of the Fraternity event. So we've got some of the board members and some of the staff here with us, and then some chair folks too. So we'll be providing updates on the state of the fraternity throughout the event. So the purpose of this is to provide some updates for you on what we're doing at a national level, provide some updates on our strategic priorities, and overall just give a general update to all of you on where we're at with the initiatives that we've been working on this biennium and what our plans are for the future. This is a different event than we've done in the past, so we do have a board meeting here this weekend. That's the reason that we're doing the event here tonight. We have the convenience of having the folks here around the room with all of us to provide these updates. The hope is and intent is to continue this practice in some capacity in the future. We'll learn from this first one that we do and we'll make improvements on it, but just a different way for us to communicate and engage with all of you. Once I'm done speaking too, we'll be able to pass it along. And then if you have questions too, we'll give you some instructions on how to do that later. But wanted to start us off with three things: where we were, where we are, and where we're going. So where we were is pre-pandemic and made some changes to our ritual, our pledge education program, and our risk management policy. All of those pieces are now fully implemented, and we've made improvements and enhancements to each of those throughout the last few years to make sure that we're providing the best value to all of you. As we've moved through that, where we are right now, we're at a critical stage in our fraternity life cycle. What that means is once we are looking at all of the stats that are coming into the campuses nationwide, we're seeing a few different trends. One of those trends is we're seeing the smaller universities get smaller, the bigger universities getting bigger, and that middle piece of those campus enrollments essentially eroding to one side or the other. We're also seeing smaller campuses close, and that has impacted us as a fraternity, and it will continue to impact us as a fraternity moving forward. We will continue to see chapters struggle, and our goal is to provide the right resources and recommendations to allow all of you to be successful. There's a few ways that we can do that. The two main ones: number one is maintain the chapters that we currently have and find the recruitment and resources to help you maintain or improve the chapter size that you have. And number two is working on expansion. We'll be talking about that this weekend in terms of what our resources are for that, specifically in the Northwest expansion project. The other piece that we're working on right now is, you'll remember that from Grand Chapter Congress, we had the Committee of the Whole happen. That related to our governance, so essentially our structure as an organization, how we go about things, and how we have people in different seats, whether it's staff or volunteers. What we've done since Congress is we've had a summary of that to the board of directors. We've worked on prioritizing some of those pieces, and actually this weekend is a critical stage for us as we have a third-party consultant and trainer and educator coming in to do a special training session with the board throughout the first part of tomorrow. Goal with that is to make sure that we're all on the same page in what we heard from that committee of the whole through other conversations, but even more importantly, starting to lay the foundation of what the next decisions and discussions that we need to have in order to move forward to be successful in our structure that way. And where we're going with all of that is we're at a critical space in our organization where, coming out of the pandemic and where we are right now, we're setting the new culture. So all of you that are listening and watching this, all the people that are around the board table here today, we are the folks that are looking to set the new direction and the new culture for this organization and ensure that we're here for the next 100 years and beyond. So that's our main goal and the vision. We have a board meeting this weekend, like I said, that is highly structured for what's the best way that we can be strategic from a board standpoint and ensure that we have the operations delegated to the right people in the organization to be implementing the resources for all of you at the chapter levels. So with that, we're in a strong spot within the organization overall. We're going to face our challenges head on, and we're going to find up with curious solutions and making sure that we are facing the challenges head on and moving forward in a positive direction. So once again, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. Looking forward to all of the strategic updates that we have. And I will pass it on to our national Organizational Development Chair, Crystal Justice.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Corey. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Crystal Justice. I'm the National Organizational Development Chair. That's a mouthful. And I'm excited to be here with you all tonight. Today, we're going to share updates on several of our existing initiatives, our new initiatives, as well as our strategic priorities. As we go through our meeting, if you have any questions, there will be a Q&A section at the end of the event. Feel free to chat our moderator through the Zoom chat feature, and we will get to as many questions as we can later on. Next slide. So first, I just wanted to start out, we're going to organize our event today through our strategic priorities. So this slide here shows our updated strategic priorities that we have revised and updated in 2021 that go from 2021 to 2026. These priorities reflect our organizational values of member education, membership growth, membership engagement, and organizational excellence, all while having diversity, equity, and inclusion, our leadership foundation, governance, and the purpose of Delta Sigma Pi as foundational focuses. So we've organized our event today by these strategic priorities. And this weekend, the board is meeting, and Corey shared a lot about what the board is going to be reviewing through discussion, proposals, recommendations that impact our organization and these priorities. So we're going to go to our next slide, which reviews our dashboard. In July of 2022, we debuted our new strategic priorities dashboard, and you can find this on our website. This is an interactive dashboard and was designed to show the progress of our fraternity strategic priorities at different organizational levels: national, provincial, regional, and chapter, with charts and tables displaying live data as it relates to our fraternal goals. Since July, when the national level was debuted, we have added our provincial and regional viewing levels. The national view is a total view of the fraternity as a whole, while the provincial and regional views allow members to see where their own province and region stands. The zoomed in focus of these levels breaks down the national data for each of our priorities and relates them to your province and your region. Still in development is the final and most detailed level of the dashboard, the chapter level. Staff is currently working with our development team to fine-tune this display for the chapter level dashboard, and we should have this ready to launch in early spring. This final level will show each chapter's role in our priorities for both collegiate and alumni chapters and allow them to see where they fit into the puzzle of our success. So we're going to now dive deep into member education. Our strategic priorities surrounding member education is to focus on educating all members to be ethical leaders. With the recent hiring of Director of Education Luke Shamer, staff and National Professional Development Chair Claire Roberts have been working on strategizing the future of our educational programming. We are starting with a strong base of resources, but a review of the focus and delivery methods are going to help us succeed to the next level. The board will be reviewing and prioritizing possible educational focuses, and a discussion will continue at the meeting this weekend. Using those prioritizations, as well as numerous individual and small group conversations and several other feedback tools, the team are going to develop an educational plan built around outcomes and preferred delivery methods based on target audiences and learning styles. Here you'll see the dashboard results zoomed in at a national level for our member education dashboard. As you can see, we're off to a great start, and we anticipate to see continued success through our educational programming with provincial conferences coming up and additional online programming. Shanda and Tyler are now going to give us more updates on our educational programming.
All right. Hello, everybody. So this last fall in 2022, we held 3 lead schools successfully in Phoenix, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C., with just shy of 1,000 registrants. For comparison, our last in-person lead schools in 2019, believe it or not, when we had 5 events, we had about 1,250 attendees. Interactive networking events were very well attended on Friday night, and keynotes, breakout sessions, roundtables, a town hall, and networking were well attended with really good feedback on the wide variety of offerings at each of those 3 events. Brothers, pledges, and guests were able to attend programming dedicated to leadership topics, personal and professional development, as well as networking opportunities and more. We had brothers Stephen Sorensen, Austin Bristow, and Elliot Ferguson joining us as keynote speakers at various events. And thanks to the Leadership Foundation for sponsoring these presentations. Chapters were also able to participate in service activities supporting the Ronald McDonald House, charities, as well as other local charities. And they got to meet several of our partners, including Enterprise Holdings, Rocket Companies, Fraternal Composite Service, IES Internships, Mecca Specialties, and the Fund for American Studies. So our 5th annual President's Academy was a huge success. We held that just a couple of weekends ago with 200 chapter presidents or another officer, but mostly presidents attending and eager to learn. They shared their challenges and successes and support their peers through the resources we provided at the event. The weekend was filled with inspiring engagement and a strong commitment to education. The energy and overall engagement from the attendees was astounding and will result in lifelong leaders, network, and friends. Presidents learned about and had interactive sessions on personality styles, incentivizing, motivating, and accountability, understanding organizational purpose and principles, strategic planning theories, navigating difficult conversations, leading like a facilitator, dining etiquette, and more. As you can see, it was a very packed weekend of learning. Keynote Frank Viverito on Sunday, he is the president of the St. Louis Sports Commission, joined us and inspired everyone with messages of sportsmanship, humility, leadership, giving back, and just making a difference. All qualities to further support the goal of President's Academy. We have 5 lead provincial conferences and council meetings coming very soon. Those start in less than 2 weeks or right at 2 weeks now. So lead provincial conferences are a full weekend of events for leadership trainings and include meetings of each province's councils, during which proposed changes to bylaws and fraternity ritual are discussed and voted on. And we have received a number of proposals. There will be educational, leadership, networking, and professional development sessions and materials, as well as lunch and awards and recognition dinner, and evenings of entertainment and networking at all of those events. There's still time to register and attend if you have not done so yet. So hop out on the website when we're done tonight and get yourself registered and your hotel rooms booked. So then we have lead schools again later this year, 2023. And those again are the fun and fast-paced forums for building skills that serve you well in your professional life, your community involvement, and in Delta Sig. Registration will be available very soon for those events. And for this next year, they're going to be in Chicago, Atlanta, and Denver with 3 again. So please join us at one of those. So then we'll talk for just a moment here about certified Delta Sig leaders. I know many of you on viewing this tonight are CDLs, so thank you for that. So for those that don't know, or if you need a refresher, CDL, again, Certified Delta Sig Leader Program, is a great way to build and demonstrate the leadership skills you gain in Delta Sigma Pi. So it's available to all alumni, including our chapter advisors, and now also available to all of our collegians. CDL participation continues to grow, as you'll see from this chart, and in part to the requirement for district directors, assistant district directors, and elected officers to be certified. We currently have nearly 500 brothers who have completed CDL Level 1 training and 300 CDL Level 2 trainings. So you can see the address there on the website. If you're interested, hop out there and learn more from our web at dsp.org, be a CDL. Webinars. So live webinars continue. You'll recall we started those in the beginnings of COVID. And they do continue with about 4 to 5 per month now. So definitely a lesser amount than we offered when we weren't doing the in-person. About half of those have been operational and the others on leadership and personal development topics. Topics are scheduled through March of this year, and our second and third quarter planning is underway and to be announced in the next few weeks. So keep an eye on the website, and then also be sure and visit Delta Sig University, our online educational tool that houses over 100 recorded webinars and trainings that may be helpful to anyone on this call, our chapters, alumni, and others. And then we have volunteer leadership trainings also coming back into our back to live and in-person world. These free workshops will better equip members with tools and information needed to be more involved in Delta Sigma Pi as a volunteer leader. These workshops are open to any alumni member aspiring to get more involved in Delta Sig, as well as current district directors, assistant DDs, chapter advisors, and other alumni leaders, as well as our collegiates who aspire to serve in an alumni role if they are getting close to graduation. Throughout the event, attendees will have a chance to network with other brothers while learning about goal setting, motivating and encouraging others, current fraternity operations, and more. It becomes a conversation of what best meets the audience we have there. So current or aspiring volunteers are encouraged to attend to learn more about opportunities, share successes, and discuss ways to support our collegiate chapters. Some of these events are going to be held at the spring lead provincial conferences. In fact, all 5 spring events will host a volunteer training on Sunday. And additionally, we have one next weekend in Grand Rapids as well. And then more will be coming throughout 2023. So just keep an eye on the website, but hope to see you at one of the trainings coming up in February or March.
Well, good evening, everyone. I guess this is going to transition over to me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the chapter officer training. So our chapter officer training module completion, which is available through our learning management system or the LMS, continues to be low. Review of our educational and communication strategies will include ways to increase that participation. We're also hosting a number of collegiate officer trainings to help chapters learn how to increase member engagement and motivation. Learn how to build a recruitment plan that creates a better recognition on campus, and review chapter officer expectations and responsibilities so that they can best support individual chapters. Moving on to publications, the 2022 temporary ritual book with the approved changes from the 2022 Grand Chapter Congress is now available. Many of our chapters did receive theirs at President's Academy, while others will be sent with the spring Crown and Delta orders or separately as needed. A permanent ritual book is to be produced following the 2023 Grand Chapter Congress in Houston. The Crown and Delta will continue to require print copies, but only through the spring 23 term. After this spring, the physical Crown and Delta will no longer be required. This policy change does go into effect July 1. For the 23-24 academic year, the Crown and Delta will become an editable PDF with similar formatting and content to the current version. This PDF will be provided to pledges in the welcome email they receive when they are reported and will be available publicly online.
Okay, thank you, Shannon and Tyler. We're going to move on to membership growth. As you can see here, this is our strategic priority details for membership growth, which is increasing diverse membership through not only expanding our chapters, but also increasing our collegiate brother membership over the terms of the priority. So next we'll see our dashboard here. We're really excited to have these live details. You can see here that we've installed 2 chapters so far, and we also currently have 6 startup groups. as well as plans for our Northwest expansion project that the board will be discussing more this weekend. Tyler's now going to share some more of the ways that we are focusing on our membership growth and retention, and details about the work that the individual disciplinary policy that the National Standards Committee is working on. That committee is chaired by Stephen Dominy, and they have been working hard the last year to get that launched this year. So take it away, Tyler.
Great. Thanks so much, Crystal. So the fraternity continues to enjoy retention of pledge to initiate at higher levels than before the implementation of the current pledging and initiation policy in the fall of 2020. We have remained steady in the low 90s since implementation. Local leadership and staff continue to monitor chapters which don't meet at least a 70% retention rate in a given semester. Many of the individuals leave a pledge education program claiming not to have enough time to commit to the organization, and it's encouraged for chapters to be fully transparent in the time and financial commitments, not only during the term that they are pledging, but also as an initiated member. This is a great accomplishment of our existing chapters, and the retention of our startup group members from their initial intention through chartering also remains strong. The updated individual discipline policy is to be implemented on July 1. You can find the updated policy highlighted in the National Policies and Procedures Manual under Discipline of the Individual. So what's been updated? There's a couple of different philosophies that have been updated. The first is to try to minimize the number of members expelled annually. Last academic year alone, 61% of all trials resulted in the expulsion of a member for a variety of reasons. During this past term, fall 23, this number was 75%. This updated process moves us closer to what campuses use and restorative justice practices, identifying issues and addressing those specific issues through behavior modification or correction. The other philosophy is a long recognized issue that collegiate members are not equipped to address some situations through our processes, most notably instances of sexual harassment, misconduct, or assault. This updated policy makes the decision for our members of who is going to review those allegations and at the provincial level. Terminology currently is very court of law feel. Like the philosophy, terminology has been updated to align closer with the terminology utilized on college campuses. And finally, the process. At various educational sessions scheduled, members will notice there's a decent departure from our current practices and a greater responsibility for the process placed on the chancellor. The intention behind the emphasized role of the chancellor is that since the chancellor is essentially the keeper and safeguarder of our rituals, and since our ritual is the supreme law of the fraternity, it only made sense that they also oversee the processes to hold individuals accountable to it. So talk a little bit about rollout. It has already begun. As mentioned, the policy has been available in the National Policies and Procedure Manual at dsp.org/policies since its passing. Members will see that the highlighted portions of the policy, those are the pieces that will come into effect July 1. Anyone who attended elite school this fall may have heard a couple of bullet points about the updated policy. National Standards Committee held a webinar for local volunteers in December, which was then distributed to volunteers and will be posted for all on Delta Sig University in April. Those who attended President's Academy received a few more pieces of information during their time in St. Louis earlier this month. And the upcoming lead provincial conferences will host the first informational sessions for collegiate members. This is because chapters are still required to utilize the current IDP through the end of the academic year. And the National Standards Committee didn't want to confuse chapters who may want to utilize this updated process before they're able to. You can see some of the upcoming spaces for additional education. Following lead provincial conferences, the National Standards Committee will hold an open webinar to any and all who are interested in learning more about the process that may have missed it at their LPC. The committee encourages any chapter who has elections in the spring and members interested running for chapter president or chancellors to attend. This will be recorded and posted on Delta Sig University again for all to see. It's the plan for the training materials to be available mid to late April. This does not mean that the chapter can utilize the updated process. Chapters still have to wait until their next academic year, but that doesn't mean that chapters can't start preparing their members before they leave for summer break. If the fall 23 chancellor is elected, any individual who is interested in being part of the chapter standards committee starting in the fall could view the videos prior to the start of the academic year to become trained in the process. Once we're in Houston for Grand Chapter Congress in August, this updated policy will be the individual discipline policy at that point. So during the educational sessions, there will be a block for how to utilize the IDP. If you weren't aware, and I've got a shameless plug here, when any new officer gets reported in the hub, that officer does receive a welcome email of information, which does include a link to those videos that I talked about for their positions. Those are always going to be available for all officers. We are in the process of updating the Chancellor Officer module so that come July 1, any newly reported Chancellor will get the information related to this updated policy in that video. We will also shortly after Grand Chapter Congress send out to all chancellors the link for that officer training video just in case they had already been reported. The last thing currently planned, though additional learning opportunities are likely to be available, is one more webinar in late August or early September as chapters get rolling to again walk through the policy and the process as they start their new term.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Now we'll move on to member engagement. This priority focuses on engaging our brotherhood throughout their lifetime. And we have several of our national and provincial regional committees focusing on engagement through various different initiatives. The next slide, you can see our dashboard results. Our National Alumni Development Committee, chaired by Jen Mays, has been working on several initiatives that impact this strategic priority, such as our new event planning guide, which you'll hear about in a little bit here, as well as a new alumni orientation program and recent graduate engagement. We're excited to see their work on these initiatives. And we also have our National Awards Committee, chaired by Kaylee Lott, reviewing our awards programming to ensure that we maximize our engagement and recognition efforts through awards. Now, Heather's going to share some details about these initiatives.
Thank you, Crystal. So this spring or winter spring, I'm really excited to announce that we are hosting a number of local alumni receptions with the goals of members being able to network with one another and also learn more about the great things that the Fraternity Leadership Foundation are accomplishing. So you see the list on the screen here. Local alumni members have been receiving invitations to these events, and a select group of members also receive mailed invitations. Similar events were hosted in spring 2020 and are back after a hiatus after COVID. So I encourage you all to join us for one of these upcoming events and be on the lookout for more later this year. Also happening is our Delta Sig news. So be sure to check out dsp.org/news to find out more about the amazing things our brothers are doing all over the country. If you have story ideas, please email those to magazine@dsp.org. And so we can, talk more about other brothers and also be on the lookout for the next issue of the Delta Sig magazine, which will be published in March. I'm also excited to announce that for July, we are hoping to do a special engagement issue, which will feature members who engage in a variety of ways and promote ways to be involved in the fraternity. Many discussions are still being held and planned for that, but we're excited for this new opportunity. As Crystal mentioned, our National Alumni Development Committee has been working on the new event planning toolkit to help chapters plan alumni engagement events such as milestone anniversaries and reunions. The toolkit was added to the website and was sent to select officers at the end of November. Further enhancements and communications with chapters hosting upcoming anniversaries are still being determined, but we will be rolling that out this spring. If you are interested in assisting a chapter with an event like a reunion or a milestone anniversary, please contact alumni@dsp.org. We continue to find new ways to enhance our email communications. Our monthly Delta Sig update to collegiate chapter officers and national leadership is now mailing every other week. The goal is to only have 4 main topics in each email. We hope that by sending more often, we can better target timing of the messages and not overwhelm our students with lots of information at one time. We are also hoping to use the opportunity to spotlight our chapters and our members. Knowing that many of our chapters meet on Sunday, our chapter services team is now posting weekly social media posts every Sunday that are timely for needed information. and/or upcoming deadlines to help utilize a variety of static and dynamic media types. Also, a social media content calendar was recently distributed to help collegiate chapters engage with their own members. The calendar also includes many holidays and special recognitions to further our DEI efforts. And don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms that are on the screen. You can get great updates on upcoming events, news articles, webinars, networking activities, and more.
Thank you, Heather. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our community service initiatives. Many of you attended Grand Chapter Congress, and these are some great photos from the events there. We continue to see excellent service events at the chapter, regional, provincial level, ongoing throughout the year. We're excited to say that we collected 300 gallons of pop tabs for the Ronald McDonald House at our fall lead schools, and we will continue to have several service initiatives at our provincial conference events upcoming in the spring. And last but not least, on our service initiatives, many of you who attended Grand Chapter Congress in Cleveland were present for this award, but in August, we were recognized as part of the Collect a Million Club by Ronald McDonald House Charities of Northeast Ohio after completing our goal of collecting more than 1 million pop tabs. Our National Community Service Committee is continuing to examine our service initiatives and partnership programs to ensure that we have the best opportunities for our organization. So now we're going to move on to operational excellence. This is our last pillar in our strategic priorities that we're going to focus on today. We continue to focus on organizational excellence through our financial goals and chapter operations. Corey spoke a little bit earlier about how we're going to be speaking about our governance here at the board meeting this weekend, and we also have our legislative initiatives ongoing as well. We currently have our elections and legislative task force led by Matt Hudson that has created several recommendations on our current legislative process and continue to review our election process, delegate training, and parliamentary review. On to our next slide of our dashboard results. You can see that one of the key components of these priorities is to decrease our financial dependence on revenue from our membership dues, as well as focusing on our collegiate and alumni chapters and having a minimum health indicator there. One of the ways that we focus on this is focusing on our Leadership Foundation grants, management fees, royalties, sponsorship partners, and investment incomes as a way to decrease our dependence on our revenue for membership dues. Here you can see all of our various partners that continue to work with us as an organization. As you can see, we have several partnerships with organizations and businesses that offer our brothers discounts for goods and services. We also have some that offer internships and job opportunities. You can see a full list of our partners at dsp.org/partners. We are excited to have started promotions on one of our newest partners, Rocket Companies. In addition to attending all 3 of the fall lead schools, online promotion and internship opportunities are available and have begun. So be on the lookout for more details on lending opportunities that they're going to offer us also. As part of the sponsorship, Rocket Companies has offered 6 $5,000 scholarships to undergraduate Delta 6. Applications were due earlier this month, and we had much promotion on that. I even saw it on Facebook, and we look forward to announcing the winners later this spring. Our next initiative that's new that we want to discuss is our subject matter expert program. We're looking for trained volunteers in the area of finance, event planning, and recruiting marketing to assist chapters with specialized needs in these areas. All subject matter experts will have to complete online training modules and will be partnered with a chapter as needed for a consultation type experience. If you're interested in volunteering as a subject matter expert or any other position, visit dsp.org/get involved to see all of our volunteer opportunities. We look forward to supporting our chapters through this new program and are excited about continuing the launch of this. Now, Tyler is going to talk to us about some other of our programs.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about CMP. And as we know, an accredited chapter is a chapter that is operationally sound and functions with all the guidelines of the National Fraternity. To earn this accredited chapter must submit 100% of all the items in the first year, with at least 95% of those items submitted correctly and on time. The fraternity saw 45% of our chapters reach at least that CMP level last year. The consulting team increased their reach with regard to CMP items to assist leaders in supporting their chapters in this area. In addition to our in-person and virtual consulting visits where CMP items are regularly discussed with VPCOs and other officers, our team has recently added a few communication checkpoints specifically to chapters who have not yet reported items throughout the year. As an example, mid-October, personalized emails were sent to chapters who had not yet reported at least one professional event, at least one service event, or no events at all, encouraging them to report if they've completed, as well as some ideas that many campuses were midway through their term. They were tailored to each chapter's specific situation and sent to the corresponding officers. This approach is intended to minimize the bulk emails that may not apply to specific chapters, as well as putting some onus on officers' responsibility. Our team continues to identify opportunities to increase that presence. Additionally, our team of young, hip people, unlike myself, have taken to social media through Delta Sigma Pi's existing channels, as was previously mentioned. Check our channels on Sundays around noon Eastern for information that is intended to be timely for not just CMP items coming up, but also national events. Our team has gathered some footage from collegiate and alumni members to share information in the coming weeks. And speaking of our consultants, through in-person and virtual consulting this year, or this last term, we saw 61 total chapters during those visits. And with operational web, and when we include operational webinars, pardon me, we were able to meet with and connect with 124 or 56% of our collegiate chapters at least once with an intentional support. This is already up from last year's 92 chapters. This intentional support connection includes some broad connections with the consulting team. Startup groups will also receive some periodic broad support from the consulting team, in addition to the great individual attention and support provided by Senior Director of Membership and Engagement, Dale Clark. Inquiries for new startup groups are always welcome, and reach out to Dale at dsp.org. One more shameless plug for me. We are still hiring and on the lookout for educational and leadership consultants to fill those positions. If you know of anyone interested, please direct them to dsp.org/ELC for more information, or send them my way via email to havens@dsp.org.
Thank you, Tyler. And now we're going to pass it over to Janine for some updates from our foundation.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here to give you an exciting update for the Leadership Foundation. So our number one, the biggest news we have is last year we had a record amount raised for the Leadership Foundation, and that is due to the generosity and support of each of you. And we couldn't do it without you. As they say, it takes a village. And through the support, no matter what level of every single brother, we can do amazing things together. And I think we need to give ourselves a round of applause for this huge milestone of raising the most amount of money last year through the foundation. So what was that money used for? As you can see here listed on the slide, number one is educational support. We provide a grant to the fraternity of $200,000 last year. We provided a grant for scholarships and a little over $75,000 directly to brothers. And then also chapter support. That includes travel and scholarships. The total of that came to $211,000 and change. Within that total, $140,000 of that was provided through money that went directly to the chapter leadership funds. So of the amount of money raised, going back to that, we had 1,582 donors. Some highlights we wanted to make sure we pointed out with that number is we have had last year, we had 304 Delta Sig for Life donors, and those are donors providing reoccurring sustaining gifts. The next item you'll see is that our roundtable members, this program is only 4 years old. And last year we had 158 Delta Sig sign on to give $1,200 or more a year. And last year, this was a 24% increase over the previous year, which is pretty amazing. Then we also continue to have a foundational program for Delta Sig, and the foundation is our Living Legacy Society. And we have 112 Delta Sigs who've indicated that they have made a planned gift to the foundation. Then on the next slide, you'll see this is the list of the scholarship recipients that I mentioned. And again, we want to thank each of the brothers who have made donations. Who've these scholarships make a huge difference in the lives of our collegiate members and what they can accomplish during their undergraduate term and graduate. Next, I want to mention that in 2020, the Leadership Foundation had a conversation around increasing our presence with peer-to-peer fundraising and online donations. With that said, they sort of ask, what can we do to improve that? So as a result of those conversations with the trustees and the foundation, we created the Founders Day Challenge. That was our first Founders Day Challenge was in 2021. And last year, the first year we raised $107,000, and we had held our second one this past fall, and that surpassed that at $108,000. Those two campaigns were just amazing. And it just goes to show that, again, collectively as a brotherhood, what we can do when we come together to support Delta Sig through the foundation. Also, with the Founders Day Challenge, we also used peer-to-peer fundraising and online programs, format to sponsor to ramp up the Alumni Day Drive. And that also raised a record amount last spring. And we raised $53,000 for that. So again, both programs were huge for the foundation. But one thing I'd like to mention with the goal of the foundation to create this type of program for Delta Sigma Pi, one of the goals was to make sure we're meeting donors where they are. And obviously in the last decade or so, online giving has become a critical piece of any organization's fundraising program. So we wanted to make sure that we are making the most of our online opportunities too. And I think that speaks to our younger brothers, as well as all brothers now give online pretty much, but especially those who graduated in the last 5 or 10 years. This is just a vehicle of support that they're just used to. So we want to make sure, again, that we're making the most of that. So at the end, in summary, I just want to thank everyone who makes a donation to the Leadership Foundation, no matter what the size is. Every donation makes a huge difference. And we just want to thank you for your support.
Thank you, Janine, for that wonderful update on the Leadership Foundation. We're going to move now into the Q&A section of our presentation. So as a reminder, as Crystal said at the beginning, if you do have questions, we've got a few here already, please go ahead and send a chat over to the moderator, who will pass those to me so we can get those squared away. The first question that we have here, I'm going to pass and ask Corey to answer this one. Corey, you mentioned that the Committee of the Whole at Congress, what steps has the board taken already in order to respond to the concerns shared this summer?
Yeah, so we've done a few things. So we brought up the summary at the post GCC board meeting in July to just kind of recap what was going on there. That summary was sent out to the board of directors. And then from there, deciding on what to do with those governance pieces. So we've had some recs in the past that have been submitted to us, and we've kind of redirected some of those in that governance mindset to various task forces or groups to take a look at that, to make sure that we're on the right path with all those, because we wanted the goal to be looking at everything within the same type of lens to make sure we're moving in the right direction. So we're not focusing on one thing here and another thing there, and people aren't working together. So those are some of the immediate pieces. I don't know if there's more, Jeremy, that you have thought of.
I think I'd just add that even the nature of this coming board meeting this weekend has changed, and some of the agenda created is based off of the conversations that have come from those previous board meetings.
Right.
The next question here, I'm going to pass this one over to Crystal. Can you speak more as to the legislation and election task force? What have they been working on, and what might we expect coming from them?
Yeah, so they have already submitted a few recommendations on some legislative cleanup and that type of information. They're working on updating the delegate orientation process and some of the materials for that, as well as our teller training and even looking at some new terminology and whatnot like that. So really trying to focus on how to best educate our delegates and our tellers and brothers on that legislative process, so everybody is aware of it, as well as just cleaning up and making sure that we're being as efficient as possible.
Excellent. Thank you, Crystal. Please do, like I said, submit additional questions over to the moderator. The next question I have here is, I'm going to ask Corey to go ahead and answer this one. Can you talk about the timeline for submitting nominations for office?
Yes, we have Grand Chapter Congress this summer in Houston, which is exciting. As part of that, we will have elections for Grand President, Vice President, Finance, Provincial Vice Presidents, and Regional Vice Presidents. And nominations for that are open currently. So you can self-nominate yourself for any of those roles. The nominations committee headed by past Grand President Tricia Smith are always looking for new candidates that are intrigued to what the opportunities are for volunteer leadership in those roles and beyond. Once we have that first compilation of folks that are nominated, we will do a publication of the candidates beacon on February 6th, and then there'll be periodic postings of that leading up until Congress.
Thanks, Corey. I'm going to ask Tyler Havens to answer this next question. Tyler, you talked a bit about the various support that chapters are receiving and some of the great work your team has done already this year and last year. Can you talk a bit about, for our chapters who are struggling, or perhaps the volunteers that are supporting our chapters that are struggling, what can they do? How do they get help from your team, and how do they get help from their volunteers?
Sure. I think the primary piece is, we can only see what we can see on paper here at the central office. So if there are things that are happening that are not data points that we might necessarily be able to see, reach out to us. Our team is working diligently on the ground and remotely, that we can work with our volunteers or directly with the students and or both, just to provide that opportunity for additional education one way or another. And so in addition to some of the trainings that Heather mentioned with the volunteer trainings, we're also offering some officer trainings in a couple of cities as well, and launching some of that programming to be able to provide some additional training for our officers. So I think all in all, reach out to me, havens@dsp.org or hub@dsp.org. As sometimes, again, we can only see what we can see through a computer, and let us know what's happening in your area and what it is that you're looking for and how we can help.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it. I believe my next question is going to go to Heather. I've got a question here about getting involved and getting engaged. And if you don't know what the right fit is for you, is where should people be going? What should they be doing? How do they get their hand raised and say, hey, look at me, let me help?
Well, there are many opportunities to do that. First of all, we do have our volunteer interest form, which Crystal mentioned. So if you go to the website and dsp.org/get-involved, there is a link to our volunteer interest form. Through there, you can kind of peruse all of the opportunities that we do have available. There are descriptions for everything. You can filter through whatever might meet your needs the most. Once you submit that will come to us, and we will work with you individually to help find the right fit for you. And if you have any questions or would just like to talk to us individually, you can also email alumni@dsp.org, and we'd be happy to help you out.
Great. Thanks, Heather. Tyler, this next one's coming from you, and I will share, this is the last question currently in the queue. So if you do have a question that you're, unsure if you want to ask or not, ask now or forever hold your peace. Tyler, related to chapter consultants, there's a question about turnover in that role and how are we doing in terms of normal turnover versus shorter or longer tenure of Elks?
Sure. So the consulting program, we have had a great opportunity to have consultants stay, many of them for 2 years. We've had at least 2 years. We have also have our senior consultant, Jasmine Flores, who has been with us a number of years, kind of working with them. And so typically our consultants do stay with us for about 2 years or a little bit longer. Recently, we have had a couple that, due to unforeseen reasons, did have turned over a little bit more quickly than we have liked. But we are still doing our best to maximize the output of our consulting team to best support our volunteers in our chapters. So again, we are still in the hiring process. So dsp.org/ELC or email me at havens@dsp.org. We are always taking applications and looking for good candidates. So send them our way.
Thank you, Tyler. And I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to everybody who helped put together the State of the Fraternity here today, as well as a big thanks to everybody for attending and wanting to learn more about what's happening in Delta Sigma Pi. One last reminder for you, if you haven't already, put on your calendar to join us all in Houston for Grand Chapter Congress, August 16th through 20th. That's going to be a great time, not just for interacting and meeting new friends and old friends alike, but also helping move the organization forward. So I hope to see everybody there. Thank you again for coming and on this little experiment with us this evening. We're going to call it a night. So long.
Thanks, everybody.